So can you again then give us the full context of that conversation of what Kiara told you about what she and Isaac would do?
Okay, so I think we were in her room, or we were either in her room or on her front porch sitting on the swing. I can't remember. I was intoxicated at the time. But she said that her and Isaac were gonna text Grace and have her come over, and like everything was fine and they were friends again, and she was gonna have Isaac text her and tell her to come over and spend the night, and that's when she was gonna kill her.
She was going to have Isaac text her, tell her to come over, spend the night, everything fine, like they were friends again. And that, the witness said, is when she was going to kill her. No name yet, no date, no courtroom, just a plan, described in the past tense, by someone who was told about it before it happened. Somewhere in that sentence is a warning nobody acted on, and a killing nobody stopped. We will spend the next several minutes finding out exactly how those two facts sit next to each other on the record. Because on this channel, the record does the talking. The witness's name was Kiana Aguilar.
Okay. If you'd begin by introducing yourself to the jury by stating your name and spelling your name for us, please.
Kiana Aguilar, Keanna Aguilar.
Can the jury hear her?
She worked at a Subway in Santa Fe. A woman named Kiara McCulley walked in one day with her boyfriend, bought a sandwich, and left with Aguilar's phone number. That is how this friendship began. Ordinary, forgettable, the kind of encounter that produces nothing worth remembering. Except this one did. Because roughly a year before, a 21-year-old named Grace Jennings was found dead in a detached garage on the south side of Santa Fe, stabbed with what investigators would later describe as a 3-foot sword. Kiara McCulley sat in her mother's bedroom with Kiana Aguilar and told her exactly how she planned to do it.
Okay. Where did this conversation happen?
We were at her mom's house in her bed.
Understand what was actually happening in that courtroom. Kiana McCulley is not on trial. She already pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, to conspiracy to commit murder, and as part of that plea, she agreed to testify against the man prosecutors say pushed her toward the killing, her then-boyfriend, Isaac Apodaca. He is the one sitting at the defense table. The state's theory is straightforward on its surface, and considerably more complicated underneath, that Apodaca manipulated a young woman with documented mental health struggles into murdering a woman both of them had once been involved with, using jealousy as the fuse and a shared fantasy of some invented organization as the accelerant. The defense's theory is equally straightforward, that whatever role Apodaca played in the messages, it was McCulley's hand on the blade, McCulley's plan, McCulley's rage, and that the state is asking a jury to extend her guilt sideways onto a man who did not swing anything. Kiana Aguilar was not present the night Grace Jennings died.
Okay. Where would you typically hang out with Kiara?
We would be at her mom's house, and once or twice we were at my parents' house, my mom's house.
Okay. How would you describe the nature of your friendship with Kiara?
She was called to the stand for a different reason entirely. She was there to establish something the prosecution needed on the record before either lawyer said the word premeditation out loud, that this was not a moment of impulse, that Kiara McCulley had been talking about killing Grace Jennings for a year. Watch how carefully the direct examination built toward that point, because the construction matters as much as the content. The prosecutor did not ask Aguilar to characterize the relationship between McCulley and Apodaca first. He asked about friendship, about how long she'd known Kiara, where they hung out, whether Apodaca was usually present. Only after establishing Aguilar as a credible, ordinary witness, a friend, not an insider, not someone with an agenda, did he move her toward the night that mattered. One night when we were drinking, Aguilar testified, Kiara told me she wanted to stab Grace.
You know about Kiara's involvement in this case?
One night when we were drinking, she told me that she wanted to stab Grace. That's her name, right?
She showed me what she wanted to use. Sit with that phrasing for a second. Not said, showed. A physical object, in a bedroom, roughly a year before a body was found in a garage, with a bloody sword beside it. Aguilar told the jury she didn't take it seriously at the time. Drunk talk, she called it. Venting, not planning. That instinct, to dismiss violent language from someone you care about as noise rather than signal, is one of the most human responses in this entire case, and it is worth pausing on before we move forward, because it will matter again by the end of this video. What did Kiara say her motive was? Jealousy, according to Aguilar. Kiara believed Isaac and Grace had once dated, and she resented it.
Okay. Did Kiara explain to you why she wanted to hurt Grace?
Yeah, she said that her and Isaac used to date or something, and she was kind of a little bit jealous.
Nothing more specific than that. No object of resentment beyond the plain fact of a shared history. And when the prosecutor asked Aguilar how she would describe Kiara and Isaac's relationship, she answered with a single word, offered without hesitation. Toxic. Neither attorney explained that word to the jury. Neither had to. The channel doesn't need to explain it either. You already know what that word is doing in this testimony, and so did every juror in that box. Here is where the case against Apodaca actually needed Aguilar's testimony to go somewhere specific, and where for a moment it appeared to stall. On cross-examination, the prosecutor tried to establish that Isaac Apodaca had no involvement in anything Kiara had described. Objection. Calls for speculation. Sustained, eventually, after several minutes of argument at the bench. The prosecution's own attempt to draw a clean line from Kiara's private confession to Isaac's culpability ran directly into the rules of evidence, and it lost. A witness cannot testify to what was in someone else's mind. She can only testify to what she saw and what she was told. For a moment, the state's own witness became evidence of nothing more than a jealous woman with a knife and a bad idea entirely her own. That is the open loop this case leaves you with at its midpoint.
Is everything you've testified to so far based on what Kiara personally told you?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that Kiara told you about her intentions towards Grace that you have not already discussed?
I'm sorry.
No.
A year-old confession, a toxic relationship, a word, jealousy, doing an enormous amount of work with very little behind it, and a defendant whose lawyers are betting the entire case on the idea that none of what you just heard has anything to do with him. And that is when things got interesting. Defense counsel took over on cross-examination and did something that, in hindsight, may be the single most consequential decision in this entire piece of testimony. He confirmed with Aguilar that the conversation she described happened roughly a year, maybe 6 months before the murder. Standard groundwork. Pin the timeline down, make sure the jury understands how much time passed. Then he asked her a question that any experienced trial lawyer will tell you should never be asked without already knowing the answer.
Good morning, Kiana. So a couple questions. The conversation with Kiara, you stated was a year prior to the murder?
I believe so, yes. Like about a year to 6 months.
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
I'm having a hard time hearing.
Isn't it true, he said, that she told you she and Isaac would bring Grace over to kill her? Aguilar said yes. So he continued, give us the full context. What did Kiara tell you she and Isaac would do? There is a particular kind of silence that exists only in a courtroom. The kind that happens after a lawyer realizes mid-sentence that the answer coming is not the one he wanted. It doesn't show up in a transcript, but you can read its shape in what Aguilar said next and in how carefully, almost gently, she said it. She said Kiara told her that she and Isaac were going to text Grace, tell her everything was fine, that they were friends again. Have Isaac invite her to come over and spend the night, and that is when she was going to kill her. That is the line this entire video opened with. Now you know where it came from, and now you know what it cost the person who asked for it. Before we move to what this means for you, as a viewer rather than a juror, sit with one more detail from Aguilar's testimony, because it says something about how these cases are actually built.
Did Kiana ever show you anything?
Yeah, she showed me a couple different things.
What did she show you?
She made like a metal ball. I don't know, it was weird. And she showed me the knife she wanted to use, or the blade she wanted to use, and I'm pretty sure that's it.
She was asked whether she had any personal knowledge of Kiara's mental health. Objection. Sustained. The jury never heard an answer. Whatever Kiara McCulley's psychological state actually was, and court records elsewhere in this case reference a competency evaluation, an undiagnosed condition she claimed to police, months spent in a state psychiatric facility before trial. None of it came through this witness, because the rules of evidence do not let a subway coworker diagnose anyone. That restriction is not a loophole. It is the entire system working exactly as designed, keeping speculation out of a jury's hands, even when speculation is what everyone in the room is thinking.
Okay. And did you ever witness Kiara behaving violently?
No.
Here is what this testimony actually teaches you, and it has nothing to do with swords or jealousy or toxic relationships. It has to do with the question defense counsel asked and should not have asked without already knowing where it led. Give us the full context. 4 words that handed the prosecution a sentence more damaging than anything in his direct case. If you are ever in a courtroom, as a witness, a juror, or simply someone trying to understand what you are watching, remember that the most dangerous question a lawyer can ask is the one built on an assumption about what the answer will be. The transcript does not care whose side asked it. It only records what was said. And once it is said, no objection, no redirect, and no amount of careful lawyering can make a jury unhear it. The trial continues. Kiana Aguilar may yet be called back. Grace Jennings is not in this courtroom to describe the night she was told everything was fine. Everything the jury will ever know about that promise comes from people who were told about it in advance and chose, understandably, not to believe it. That is the quiet horror sitting underneath this entire case, and it is worth asking yourself directly. At what point does a threat, repeated with enough detail, stop being drunk talk and start being a warning someone should have taken to the police? Tell us where you draw that line. The record is still being written. We will be here when the next witness takes the stand.